Every farming expert on the internet will tell you that half an acre is not enough land to feed a family. They will tell you the math does not work, that you need at least 2 acres for real self-sufficiency, and that anything less is just a hobby that happens to smell like manure. Here is what those experts are not telling you. Amish families have been feeding themselves completely off plots this size for over 200 years. Eggs, meat, milk, honey, pest control, garden fertilizer, all of it, from 7 animals. And the reason it works is not just the animals themselves. It is the way those animals work together as a system. Each one solves a problem the others cannot. Take one out, and everything gets harder and more expensive. Today, I'm going to walk you through the exact 7 animals Amish families raise on half an acre, why each one earns its place, and how they set them up so the whole thing practically manages itself. By the end of this video, you will have a complete working blueprint for feeding your family without a single trip to the grocery store for eggs, meat, milk, or honey. Let me tell you what is actually going on in most small homesteads right now. You bought chickens because everyone said start with chickens. Then you added some ducks because a YouTube video told you to. Maybe you impulse bought a goat at a farm auction, and now you are running 3 separate feeding schedules, cleaning 3 different shelters, and spending more money than you ever spent at the grocery store. The average backyard flock keeper spends $500 to $700 a year on commercial feed alone. That is just chickens. Add ducks and a goat, and you are pushing $1,200 to $1,500 a year before you count vet bills, bedding, fencing repairs, and replacement birds. The real problem is not the animals. It is that nobody taught you how to pick animals that actually work together. You have livestock competing for the same resources instead of filling different roles. The Amish figured this out not from a farming blog, but from 200 years of necessity. When your survival depends on what your land produces, you stop making emotional decisions very fast. And what they landed on is a system where every animal in the yard is solving a problem for every other animal in the yard. The chicken manure feeds the garden. The garden scraps feed the rabbits. The rabbit droppings go straight back into the soil without any composting at all. The goats clear brush. The ducks kill the pests. The bees double your vegetable yields. That is not a theory. That is a working machine that has been running on small Amish farms since before your great-grandparents were born. Here are the 7 pieces of that machine. Animal number 1, laying hens. A man named Levi Schwartz outside of Millersburg, Ohio, has kept laying hens since he was 10 years old, helping his father. He is 63 now, and he will tell you that 6 hens is all a family of 4 ever needs. 6 birds produce somewhere between 1,800 and 2,000 eggs a year. That is breakfast, covered every morning, with enough left over to trade with neighbors or sell at the end of the lane. But here is the thing Levi does that most backyard flock keepers do not. His birds roam free during the day. They scratch through grass, hunt insects, clean up kitchen scraps and garden waste. That alone cuts his feed costs by 25 to 30%. His chickens are literally paying him to let them walk around the yard eating pests. Levi has never kept a commercial hybrid. He runs Buff Orpingtons and Rhode Island Reds, heritage breeds that keep producing reliably into year 4, handle brutal Ohio winters without a heated coop, and forage harder than anything the feed store sells. He says the commercial birds lay like a machine for 2 years, and then you are buying new birds. His birds keep going. One hen costs him roughly $15 a year to feed on a free-range system. She gives back $50 in eggs. He says he has never found a better investment, and he has been looking for 50 years. Animal number 2, rabbits. For every 10 pounds of feed you put into a rabbit, you get 6 pounds of meat back. Compare that to cattle, which need 8 pounds of feed for a single pound of beef. No common livestock animal alive converts feed to protein more efficiently than a rabbit. A woman named Miriam Yoder in Sugar Creek, Ohio, runs 20 rabbits in a 10 by 10 shed with stacked wire hutches. One breeding doe produces around 50 pounds of dressed meat annually. Miriam has 3 does. Her family has not bought meat from a store in 11 years. The meat is mild, lean, and tastes closer to chicken than anything else. But the part Miriam always brings up first is not the meat. It is the droppings. Rabbit pellets go directly into vegetable rows. No composting, no waiting, no burning plants with raw nitrogen. She just picks them up and puts them in the garden, and her soil improves every single year. She says the rabbits are not just the protein source. They are the reason the garden works as well as it does. One rule she is strict about: never feed rabbits iceberg lettuce or cabbage. It causes deadly bloat. Hay, pellets, and apple twigs for treats. That is the whole diet. Simple and cheap, and her rabbits stay healthy. Animal number 3, Nigerian dwarf goats. Standing about 2 feet tall, the Nigerian dwarf goat is the Amish answer to dairy without the acreage. A woman named Katie Troyer, outside of Berlin, Pennsylvania, has kept 2 does for the past 9 years. One doe produces up to half a gallon of milk daily. That covers coffee, cereal, cheese for winter, and still leaves enough for Katie to make goat milk soap she sells at the Saturday market for $8 a bar. But here is what nobody tells you about goat milk until you switch. The fat globules are smaller than cow milk, so your body digests it differently. People who spent years struggling with dairy bloat and discomfort try goat milk, and the problems disappear. The butter fat runs 6 to 10% compared to 3 to 4% in store-bought cow milk. Richer, creamier, and actually usable. Katie's whole dairy setup is 2 does and a simple 3-sided shelter. No massive barn, no dedicated pasture, no complicated equipment. The trick she uses that saves her the most frustration is this: she only gives grain during milking. Do that consistently, and the goats sprint to the milking stand and jump up on their own. No chasing, no wrestling, no cold coffee. The upfront cost is $200 to $400 per doe, which sounds steep, until you realize that a family easily spends $1,500 a year on dairy products. Katie says her goats paid for themselves inside the first 8 months. One rule that is not optional: never keep a single goat. A lonely goat stops eating, stops producing, and starts screaming at 4 in the morning. Always buy 2. Katie learned this the hard way with her first doe, and she has never forgotten it. Animal number 4, Muscovy ducks. Muscovy ducks are not going to win any beauty contests. They have a red face mask that looks like they lost a fight. But a farmer named Amos Beeler in Lancaster County keeps 12 of them, and he says they are the hardest working animals on his property and the easiest to ignore. One Muscovy duck eats around 100 mosquito larvae daily. Ticks, slugs, Japanese beetles, anything crawling through the garden rows is gone within weeks of those birds moving in. Amos had a slug problem for 3 years before he got the ducks. Traps, beer pans, copper tape, nothing worked long term. The ducks solved it in under a month, and it has not come back. The thing that surprises everyone who visits Amos's farm is the quiet. Regular ducks sound like an alarm clock with a grudge. Muscovies barely make a sound. They hiss softly, wag their tails, and go about their business. His neighbors did not even know he had them for the first 2 years. Amos says they basically raise themselves. A Muscovy hen hatches 3 to 4 clutches every year without incubators, heat lamps, or anyone setting alarms to turn eggs. She handles everything. The meat is lean and rich, and old-timers call it the poor man's roast, which Amos says is high praise from people who know what good meat tastes like. He does not bother with a pond. A plastic kiddie pool filled twice a week handles their water needs completely. Total setup cost under $40. One thing Amish does every 6 months without fail. He clips the flight feathers on one wing of each bird. Just one wing. It throws off their balance enough to keep them grounded. Skip this step, and your ducks become your neighbor's ducks. Animal number 5. American guinea hogs. A farmer named Eli Miller in Wayne County, Ohio, puts his guinea hogs to work before he puts them in the freezer. He moves them through his garden plot every week with a simple electric fence setup. They root up every weed, turn the soil 6 inches deep, and fertilize as they go. By spring, that patch is ready to plant without him ever picking up a shovel. Guinea hogs are compact animals, topping out at 150 to 200 pounds, fully grown. Eli says on processing day 1, person handles the whole job. No forklift, no calling 3 neighbors over. And they eat almost nothing compared to commercial breeds. They live on pasture, garden scraps, and windfall apples from his trees. His feed costs are 40 to 60% lower than they would be with a commercial hog. The lard is what Eli's wife Ruth talks about most. Guinea hog fat renders into pure white, clean-tasting lard that makes pie crusts flakier than anything you've ever bought, and fried chicken that comes out right every single time. One breeding pair produces 6 to 8 piglets twice a year. That is potentially 16 pigs annually from 2 animals. Eli's freezer has had bacon, ham, and sausage in it every month for the past 12 years. One rule he is serious about. Keep pigs at least 100 feet from your well. Their waste carries nitrogen that seeps into groundwater faster than you expect. And that is not a problem you want to find out about, slowly. Animal number 6. Coturnix quail. A woman named Hannah Glick in Lancaster County started raising Coturnix quail 6 years ago when her township council voted down her application to keep chickens. She read the township code carefully and found that quail were not classified as poultry. Not a single restriction applied. She now runs 30 quail in a garage corner, and her neighbors have no idea. Coturnix quail start laying eggs at 6 weeks old. Her chickens were still figuring out what they were, while her quail were already producing. 12 birds fit in a 2-by-4-foot cage, smaller than a coffee table. Stack 2 cages, and you are getting 2 dozen eggs daily from something that takes up less room than most pieces of furniture. Hannah sells pickled quail eggs at the Saturday market, soaked in beet juice until they turn deep purple red. $8 to $10 a dozen. She covers her entire property tax bill on Saturday mornings. The one thing she's upfront about with anyone who asks is this: quail almost never go broody. The hatching instinct was bred out of them. You need a small incubator for replacement birds. A decent one runs $40 to $60, holds 50 eggs, and pays for itself after the first successful hatch. Hannah says the quail were the last animal she expected to fall in love with, and they turned out to be the one she tells everyone about first. Animal number 7, honeybees. A beekeeper named Samuel Kaufman in Holmes County, Ohio, has kept bees since his grandfather taught him at age 12. He now runs 4 hives on less than an acre, and he says the bees are the reason everything else on his property works as well as it does. One hive pollinates every fruiting plant within a 2-mile radius. His tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, and apple trees produce 30 to 50% more than they did before the bees arrived. That is 60,000 workers visiting his garden every single day, and they pay rent. A single established colony produces 30 to 60 pounds of surplus honey per year after the bees keep what they need for themselves. Samuel sells raw local honey for $12 a pound at the farmer's market. One productive hive brings in $300 to $900 in honey income. The beeswax alone covers a full year of candles, lip balm, and wood polish. His wife Ruth renders it down, and they have not bought any of those products in over a decade. Samuel keeps Langstroth hives for one reason: removable frames. When you are older with creaky knees, you want frames that slide out like file folders. Inspect, harvest, and done. He buys package Bs in April when they run $150 to $180. Buy later, and you are paying more for weaker colonies that will not make it through winter. His one piece of advice for anyone starting their first hive: face the entrance southeast. Morning sun hits early, warms the bees up, and gets them foraging before any other colony in the area is even moving. More hours working means more food growing and more honey in the fall. 7 animals, 1 system, complete food independence on half an acre. Here is the thing about all of this that took me the longest to understand. It is not about any one animal doing an impressive thing. It is about what happens when all 7 are running together. The chickens cut pest pressure and build the compost. The rabbits fill the freezer and feed the garden. The goats handle dairy without a barn. The ducks clean the garden rows without a single chemical. The quail produce eggs year-round and cover costs. The guinea hogs till the soil and fill it with fat and protein. And the bees quietly double the yield of everything else on the property while generating income you barely have to think about. Remove one piece and the costs go up somewhere else. Keep them all, and the whole thing gets easier every year instead of harder. That is what Levi and Miriam and Katie and Amos and Eli and Hannah and Samuel all figured out. Not from farming websites, from their parents and grandparents who figured it out before them, from necessity, from 200 years of not having a choice but to make it work. Half an acre is not too small. You just have not set it up the way they have. Now you know how. If this gave you something today, subscribe to Moses Kaufman. We put out a new video every week, going back into the systems and knowledge that kept small families fed and independent for generations. Drop in the comments which of these 7 animals you are adding first. I read every single one, and I will tell you exactly what I would pair it with to get your system started right.